Hello, my name is Sean Harrigy. I have a master's degree in the analyzation of poetry. I graduated from the University of Kentucky way back in 2010. Yeah, it was a long time ago. But since then, I have been traveling the world, traveling different countries, different cities, different towns, different rivers, different mountains, different butterflies, different flowers, all over the globe. And hopefully one day I'll be able to go all over the universe, if you know what I mean. But I'm just an explorer. I'm a traveler. I like to learn. I'm a curious guy. I'm a curious human being, and I think that's a good thing. I think we should all be curious because curiosity killed the cat, but it didn't kill the human. You know what I mean? Like I said, I have a master's degree in analyzation of poetry, and I'm going to share with you some lines from a poem today, because a lot of people enjoy poetry. A lot of people will read poetry, but they really don't have a full understanding of what the author was trying to communicate, right? Because people, they might have a basic understanding. You know, they might understand the basic premise of the poem, the basic plot or summary of the poem, maybe one or two life lessons, but they don't actually have a grasp on the true intentions of the author. And that's where the analyzation comes into effect, right? You really have to analyze these poems. And sure, there's some poems out there that are just basic poems. And you read them, you got it, that's it, right? But the true great poets of modern society, or even past modern society, they really knew how to emphasize certain words to really draw out the certain ratios of aspects that they were trying to explain. And it's complicated. It's not, mathematics here. We're not, doing geometric squares and square roots of three-dimensional shapes. We're not like that, folks. But it is still complicated in its own way. So let's get right to it. The first poem is titled Reprise, okay? And it was published by Warner Brothers Records and back in 1855, okay? So I'm going to read a couple lines from this poem. It's called Reprise. The author's name is Jonah Wentworth. Jonah Wentworth, very popular poet in the mid to late 1800s. Okay, now try to keep up. I know it's going to be tough, but try to keep up. Try to listen. Try to understand and take in exactly what this author is trying to communicate to you. Okay, all right, here we go. Reprise. Woke up thy morning, thy window thy shut. Reprise, reprise, reprise. I must. Okay, now we're just going to stick with those two first lines for right now, okay? Because we really want to jump in and want to dissect this. I could read the whole poem to you. Yeah, I could, but it would be tough for you to fully comprehend the whole poem at once, so we're going to stick to those two lines, okay? He starts off by talking about, waking up in the morning, right? And whenever, not whatever, I can't say whenever, I can't lump every poem into one summary, but usually speaking, when a poet uses the term wake up, right? He's not just talking about, going to bed and waking up in the morning. He's talking about waking up in life, right? Waking up in life, becoming awake. A lot of times we sleepwalk through life, right? Are we really awake? Are we really? Ask yourself that question. The poet wants you to ask yourself that question. Ask yourself, are you really awake? Are you just sleepwalking through life? Are you texting on your phone, on your Facebooks, on your MySpace, on your AOL Instant Messengers, and you're just texting away? And you're just walking around, and you're sleepwalking through life. You're not really awake, folks. So, this poet, once again, this is in the 1800s, folks, and the message is still true today. Wake up, folks. Wake up. Become awakened through poetry. I cannot recommend poetry enough. I'm a poet myself, to be honest with you. I am a poet myself. I don't consider myself a great poet, but I am a poet myself. And I love poetry. I fell in love with poetry at a young age, and I just fell in love with it. I used to go to the library and just hug the poetry books, Students in my class would be like, what are you doing, And I'm just like, give me a second. And I'd just be in the corner, and I'd just be hugging a big bundle of poetry books. Edgar Allan Poe. Even though it seems sad, the guy still had a great message, all right? And I'd hug the crap out of his books. I'd just hug them. I just hold on to those books tight, and I wouldn't want to let them go. You know, I'd take them out of the library for 2 weeks, and then you have to return them. You know, I'd come back in, and the librarian would have to rip Edgar Allan Poe's poems out of my hands, because I didn't want to give them up, folks. I didn't want to give them up. That's how much I love poetry. I just love them. Just something about poems is just the sound of the silicone spray. It just rains down like a shower of just lightning rods and bees on their birthdays, just showering me with happiness, fulfillment, and that knowledge in which I seek. Poems have unlimited knowledge. You right? I mean, could you read a dictionary and get some knowledge? Sure you could, but who the hell wants to read a dictionary, right? All right? Who the heck? Maybe an urban dictionary. Maybe that'd be pretty fun. But regular dictionary is pretty boring to read. Encyclopedias. Useful? Yes. Boring? Yes. Poetry? Useful? Boring? No. Okay? You want to learn some stuff? Grab a poem book and dig on in, folks. I'm telling you, it's a lost art. You know, I'm glad I spent eight and a half years studying and receiving my master's degree in the analyzation of poetry, because it's not wasted, folks. It hasn't been a wasted time. And let me just give you a brief history about myself. Like I said, after I graduated from the University of Kentucky and received my master's degree in the analyzation of poetry, I traveled the world, the 7 seas, in particular the United Kingdom, right? A lot of times people forget about the United Kingdom. They know, people talk about Canada, people talk about Europe, China, you know, Shanghai in particular. And I actually have a good friend. I'd consider him one of my best friends of mine. He is a professor at the University of Shanghai, and he teaches poetry analytics, where he goes through, dissects different types of poetry and, you know, combines them with numbers to produce certain strategies and how the numbers connect to each other. It's very interesting, folks. Check it out sometime. His name is Dr. Lee Stansky, professor at the University of Shanghai. So check him out online. Google him. He has his own YouTube page as well. And great guy, great guy. If you're into numbers and you're into poems, he's the guy you want to check out. If you're not into numbers and you're into poems, then I'm the guy you want to check out, all right? I'm not a big numbers guy. I'm going to be honest with you, all right? Math, you know what I mean? That's how I feel about math. But when it comes to poems, I'm all smiles. I'm 100 smiles and 101 Dalmatians all at the same time, folks. And poetry is great. And I've traveled the world, like I said. Poetry is different no matter where you go. You go to China, they got poems. Yes, they do. It just sounds a little more chingy. You go to Europe, they have poems. Sure, they do. But, you know, they might be a little bit different. It might have a little more spit in them, if you know what I mean. A little more spit, especially if you go to Germany. And these poems, though, they all have one underlying theme that we cannot pretend to exist. We can't pretend that it doesn't exist. We can't pretend that just gloss over it with a glossy marker or those glossy makeups that girls like to wear. We really have to dissect them, you know, like a frog. You really have to take the shovel and just smash it in the head and get in there. Don't be afraid. Poetry can get messy. That's right. Poetry can get messy, folks. You might get a lot of verbs, a lot of pronouns, a lot of, you know, constatations all over your hands, all over your fingers. But the truth is, Chris Barrett did not break his duffel bag just because, you know, he was a nice guy. No, Chris Barrett, his duffel bag broke because he did some things that led up to that. Let's be honest. Let's be honest, all right? Let's clear the air here, okay, Chris? Clear the air. For those of you that don't know, Chris Barrett was a fellow student that I went to University of Kentucky with, and he was a great poet, a better poet than I was, hands down, a better poet than I was, but couldn't analyze a poem for crap. He couldn't do it. He would look at a poem and be like, I don't know what it means. You know what I mean? And he had this duffel bag. He used to fill it up with poems, and one day the duffel bag broke. I got blamed for it. Truth is, I think we all know the circle of life, and I think we all know that duffel bag broke for a reason. And I think we all know he is somewhere off living in the woods, you know, writing poems on the side of a log cabin, and I'm standing here on stage talking to you guys tonight because circle of life, folks, circle of life. And let me tell you, you want to learn more about poems, then stay tuned to my YouTube channel. I'm going to go talk about poems for years, for days. Questions about poems, make sure you send them to me. My email is questionsaboutpoems@gmail.com. Anything else you want to know, feel free to ask. I'm an open book, folks. I'm an open poem book, to be honest with you, you know. I'm full of poems, you know, and I can't resist a good poem. If you want to write me a good poem, Hey, I tell you what, I'm gonna read it. I'll tell you, like, oh, I don't look at my emails. I tell you what, you write me a good poem, I'm gonna be reading that thing all night. It's gonna keep me up all night, and I'm gonna be reciting it, analyzing it, analytically speaking, and also figuratively speaking. I will be analyzing it, dissecting it, and alluding to it in my next video. So thank you for watching. We're gonna get more into poems in the next video. Sorry, I gotta go. I hear somebody call me. Hey! So I will see you next time on Poems and More. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.